What is the funniest joke you've been told that you still think about to this day? A guy from the city is out driving in the country. He passes a farm and sees the farmer holding a pig up, so the pig can eat apples out of an apple tree. The city slicker has never seen anything like that, so he stops, hops the fence and approaches the farmer. "What in the world are you doing?" the city slicker asks. "Holding up my pig, so he can eat apples out the tree," the farmer says. "Why not shake the tree, and let your pig eat the apples off the ground?" the city slicker says. "Wouldn't that save a lot of time?" "Well," the farmer says, "what's time to a pig? NSFW, but hilarious." A penguin has his car break down and takes it in to get serviced on a hot summer's day. While he's waiting, he notices an ice cream parlor across the street. He heads over and gets a nice, big, vanilla ice cream cone and sits on the curb and eats it. Since it's so hot outside, it melts a bit and gets all over the place, especially around his beak. Just then the mechanic calls to him and says his car is ready. He heads inside, where the mechanic tells him, "Looks like you blew a seal." The penguin responds, "Oh, no, it's just a little ice cream." A Brit is road tripping through Orleans. On his travels, he spots a local farmer along the roadside who seems to be struggling with something. Curious, and wanting to see if the local needed a hand, the traveler pulls his car over to the roadside and wanders over for a closer look. He finds the farmer wrestling with a stray sheep, so he taps the farmer's shoulder to get his attention. "Excuse me, sir, can I ask, are you shearing the sheep?" The farmer glanced over his shoulder, irritated, and very sweaty. "Nah bro, not sharing this one. Get your own dot." A little Indian boy was complaining to his father about his name. The father patiently explained that their tribe names a new baby by what the father first sees after the baby is born. "This is why your sister is named Running Deer. The first thing I saw after she was born was deer running in the woods. Your brother was named Flying Eagle because that is the first thing I saw after he was born." The little Indian boy stomped his foot, and the father sighed and said, "I'm sorry two dogs effing, but that's just the way of our tribe." A woman wakes up on her birthday, and says to her husband, "Honey, I had a dream last night that you gave me a diamond necklace for my birthday. What do you think it means?" Her husband smiles and says, "Maybe tonight you'll find out." Later that night, the couple go out to an ice show, and have dinner at their special place. At the end of the meal, the husband takes out a small gift-wrapped box, gives it to his wife, and says, "Happy birthday honey." The wife opens the box and inside is a book titled How to Interpret Your Dreams. "My husband's co-workers taught my 5-year-old son a joke. I didn't think the joke or the circumstances were funny at the time, but now 25 years later. What did the blind man say when he walked past a fish market? Hi girls!" He told this joke in front of the whole kindergarten class, teachers and parents at a get-to-know-you gathering. I was mortified. Needless to say, kid didn't get to hang with dad at work on Saturdays anymore. Now we do laugh, son doesn't remember saying it. Teacher still does, she's my grandson's teacher now. Two women step out of the retirement home to smoke a cigarette. As they are lighting their cigarettes, it starts to rain. One of the old ladies pulls out a condom, rips the end off, slips it over her cigarette to protect it from the rain. "Holy shit, I can't believe I have never thought of that, I need to try that," said the other lady. The next day, she goes down to the gas station, asks the clerk for a pack of condoms. "What kind?" he asks. "I don't care what brand they are, as long as they're big enough to fit a camel." "You need a prop for this. I like to use a fist-sized rock. I had one that was perfect for this joke, as it had a natural erosion that looked like an X. I'd pick up the rock and take it to someone and say this in a very matter-of-fact, like I'm info dumping something exciting. You see this rock? This marking, right here? Point to X. This is an important artifact. It was used in Native American mating rituals. It's otherwise known as the fucking rock. Works every time, but I lost the rock. I need a new fucking rock." When I was little, I would ask my mom to tell me this story joke over and over and it would make me crack up. She said that there was a dude, and he had heard they were drafting men to a war. But he didn't want to go to war, so he pulled out all his teeth. BC, I guess that would prevent him from getting drafted. Then when the recruiters came and made all the men line up to be inspected, the first thing they looked at was his feet. And they said, "We can't recruit you. You have flat feet." And that's it. That's a joke. I have a soft spot for the old but gold. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson are going camping. They pitch their tent under the stars and go to sleep. In the middle of the night Holmes wakes Watson up. "Watson, look up at the stars, and tell me what you deduce." "Watson, I see millions of stars, and even if a few of those have planets, it's quite likely there are some planets like Earth, and if there are a few planets like Earth out there, there might also be life." "Holmes, Watson, you idiot, somebody's stolen our tent." "I was in Taiwan for a work trip with key figures from my org. My org had 3 locations: India, Taiwan, and US. The Americans and Indians decided to grab a dinner meal at a Japanese location. There were 2 restaurants right next to each other. As we walked up, the most senior Indian manager asked, 'Shall we go to Nagasaki or Hiroshima? X200B?' It was so unbelievably inappropriate and out of the blue for the trip that everyone busted up. Every time I come to a Japanese restaurant I recall that moment and chuckle. The body parts were at war one day over who was the boss of the body. The eyes said they were because they give sight. The ears said they were because they allowed hearing. The brain said it was because it allowed reason and thinking, and so on, until the whole piped in and said they were all wrong and it could prove it. It shut down for a week. The brain exploded. The eyes popped out. Steam came pouring out of the ears until the whole body collapsed, proving once and for all the boss is always a hole." A couple of Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas hunters are out in the woods when one of them falls to the ground. He doesn't seem to be breathing and his eyes are rolled back in his head. The other guy whips out his cell phone and calls 911. He gasps to the operator, "My friend is dead, what can I do?" The operator, in a calm, soothing voice, says, "Just take it easy. I can help. First let's make sure he's dead." There is a silence, then a shot is heard. The hunter says, "Okay, now what?" George W. Bush was sitting at his desk in the Oval Office when an aide came in. "Sir, here is today's list of casualties from the coalition in Iraq. I'm sorry to say that we lost a Brazilian." Bush dropped his head into his hands. "Oh no, oh no, oh no." The aide felt bad. He had never seen him so distraught. "Sir, is there anything that I can do for you?" Bush looked up and asked with pain visible in his eyes. "Yes, just tell me, how many is a Brazilian?" The subject probably dates me. This old man drives into the back of an expensive sports car. The driver comes out very irate and requires the old man pays him $10,000 immediately. The old man is a bit shaken and says, "Wait a moment, I'll call my son and he'll know what to do. He trained dolphins." "Trained dolphins? What that's got to do with it?" The son shows up a bit later, hears his story and proceeds to trash the other driver. "Dad," he says, "I told you, I trained as a Navy SEAL, not dolphins. I've got a few short ones I made a point to remember because they made me laugh." "Why did the man fall in the well?" "He couldn't see that well." "What do you call a deer with no eyes?" "No idea." "What do you call a deer with no eyes and no legs?" "Still no idea." "What do you get when you cross an elephant and a rhino?" "A Lapino." "How much does a rainbow weigh?" "I don't know, but it's pretty light." "What do you call a kid with no arms and no legs?" "Names." 3 ducks get arrested. Now in the courtroom, the judge says, "Step forward, one at a time, and state your name and your crime." First duck steps forward and says, "My name is Duck and my crime is blowing bubbles in the pond." Judge says, $50, get out of here. Second duck steps forward and says, "My name is Duck and my crime is blowing bubbles in the pond." Judge says, $50, get out of here. Third duck steps forward and says, "My name is Bubbles. Mom used to work in a hospital, and when the older gents were feeling a bit glum, she'd offer to tell them a dirty joke. What's the difference between a coffin and a condom? You come in one, go in the other, but have to be stiff to get into both." Then she'd go next door, where the little old ladies always asked what the gents were laughing about, so she'd tell them the dirty joke too. The little old ladies always laughed harder in Mom's opinion. A man walks into a psychiatrist's office and says, "Doc, I don't know what to do. When I wake up I turn into a wigwam, but when I sleep I become a teepee. I know it doesn't look like it, but you've got to believe me, I'm a wigwam then a teepee, a wigwam then a teepee. Wigwam, teepee, wigwam, teepee, I'm going insane." The psychiatrist pats him on the shoulder and says there's nothing to worry about. This is very common. You're just too tense. An old man is lying on his deathbed with his wife at his side. They had 3 kids, but the last one, Steve, looked nothing like the first 2, so he was always suspicious. The old man looked at his wife and says, "Honey, it doesn't matter at this point, but I need to know. Is Steve my son?" His wife smiles and says, "I swear to you, he is your son." The old man then dies peacefully. Then his wife says thank God he didn't ask about the first two. A piece of string walks into a bar and orders a drink. The bartender tell him sorry, we don't serve strings here. Get out. The string walks out and unravels one end of himself and ties himself up a few times and walks back in and orders a drink. The bartender says aren't you the string that was just in here? The string replies no, I'm afraid not. Heard this joke probably 23 years ago. Still love it and tell it to people. Did you hear about Santa's elves who swallowed a bottle of invisible ink? They're at the hospital waiting to be seen. Did you hear about Santa's elves who turned up to work dressed in pair of curtains? Santa told them to pull themselves together. Did you hear about Santa's elves who were breathing in the helium gas? They tried to explain, but Santa wouldn't be spoken to in that tone of voice. There's this guy, Dave, who absolutely hates going to the doctor. Luckily for him, his brother Henry is a veterinarian. So anytime Dave is sick, he tells Henry and Henry will say look, I'm not a doctor but here's what I would do and the medicines I would take. One day Dave breaks his leg so he calls up his brother and tells Henry he broke his leg. Henry is quiet for a bit and then says Dave, I've got bad news. An older guy I used to work with who was approaching retirement just had the quickest wit. 2 FM engineers were in the office changing one of those 2 meters long fluorescent light tubes. Without skipping a beat the older guy says how many engineers does it take to change a light bulb? It was the perfect mixture of the classic joke and his delivery. That was 5 years ago but I still have a chuckle about it.